listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart. And we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse. Storehouse listeners, what's up? This is Stu. Hey, before we get into this episode, I have one favor to ask of you. Go find our Facebook group. It's called Filling the Storehouse Podcast Facebook group, and join us. We're trying to grow the community, grow the tribe, to promote abundance and service and giving, and just share lots of cool stuff with you. We post clips from our podcast episodes, good books we're reading, information on our guests, previous guests, blog posts, just some cool, funny pictures, just lots of good stuff going on in our Facebook group. So would love for you to join us and tell someone else about us. We'd really greatly appreciate it. And go fill your storehouse. Make it a great day. See ya. All right. What's up, everybody? Hey, this is Stu and David, and this is Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm going to start the day off with a joke I heard in church yesterday. Give credit to John, my pastor at Crossroads in Parker, Colorado. Did you know that Moses was the first person to download data from the cloud onto a tablet?
Wow. That was a good one.
You get it? You get it?
Yeah, I got
That's awesome.
Data from the cloud.
Can you explain it?
Did you get
No, I don't
that?
get it.
Oh, you don't get it?
All right, I got a church joke for you then.
All right, go.
What kind of person was Boaz before he got married?
I don't know.
Ruthless.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
That's good stuff. That's
All
good
right.
stuff.
Well, this concludes our show for today. Hope that it brought you great joy and laughter.
And also, before we start and get into you, Cory, I wanted to give one shout out. Steve Sweeney, my buddy from, he was my instructor in flight school in the Navy. He sent me this super cool shirt, Ace Sandblasting. He's in Arizona. He's got a couple different businesses. He tried to give me my first call sign in the Navy and it didn't stick. So Sweenus, back at you, buddy. Sorry. But super cool shirt. He's got Ace Sandblasting and Badge Express there in Phoenix. So I'll put those.
Well, apparently he only makes kid
sizes
sizes shirts too. He makes like kids clothing. So that's good.
This is super strong, extra large.
It's not about your extra large. It's about Cory, his extra large brain, his amazing heart for service, and these sweet books, and just this mission that you're on, Cory. So we're so happy that you joined us today. And I will say that I've been, we talked probably a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, and since then I've just really been plugging into a lot of your posts on LinkedIn and just these messages that you put out about family and winning at home and your intentionality with your kids. So I'm really looking forward to this interview. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and just thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Stu and David, for having me. I enjoyed both of our, one-on-one conversations we have had, and looking forward to this podcast. So thank you very much.
Yeah. If you could just give a little background about who you are and what you're doing now and how you got to where you are now, if you could.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we hit record, one thing we were talking about is a mentor told me that wisdom was spelled W-I-S-D-U-M-B. And, that's kind of what I want to share today is just I've made some dumb mistakes along my life and learned a lot. Also had just some, great opportunities. And so through all that, I like to, share it with business leaders. And really my life mission right now is I want to help leaders, win at work and win at home, and to do that the best. And my first book I wrote was called Win at Home First, and the reason I wrote that book is because I lost at home first, and I don't want to see another business leader lose at home. And I believe there is, in fact, a better way to live and go after the things we do as opposed to what culture says, right? The culture is about the hustle. Culture is about, right, filling up the storehouse with, all these earthly things. And, you guys are about the same mission I am, where it's about, no, there's so much more than just, success, corner office, and all those components. And so for a long time, I thought it was just about those things. So for me, I was a civil engineer by degree out of University of Missouri, started my career in Kansas City, and then got involved in technical sales, doing civil engineering type products, where we sold bridges and storm sewer. Did that in Kansas City, then eventually in Denver, where I managed a bunch of states and people. And I took one more corporate move with that company, took me to Cincinnati, where I live now, and I was vice president of a $120 million division. And I just got to this moment where I was in over my head. If I had an amazing presentation to the executive team, then I thought I was the man. If it didn't go well, then, I thought I was going to get canned. So I just had this kind of volatility in my identity. I was taking my identity to my work, and as opposed to being a beloved son of God, that I thought, hey, it's all about work. And so I actually was like, I need help. I got to figure this out because I'm skipping gym workouts. When I should be hanging out with my family, my laptop is on my lap and doing all this work. So I actually ended up getting an executive coach who was faith-based, and just, it totally changed my life. And I know that sounds like a big deal, but it's true. I mean, it's now what I do for a living, but I just became a better father, a better husband, a better leader. And it all just became I was prioritizing differently. I was thinking differently. It's a whole perspective change. I took one more corporate move where I was president of sales for a national contractor. You guys have probably heard like great stuff in a can, as you spray that.
Yeah.
For the company I worked with, basically we did that. We had rigs throughout the country that would go to a building. They could inject that. Basically, it's like great stuff on steroids. They'd inject it into the soil. It increased the bearing capacity of the soil. It would displace the unwanted water, and it could, in fact, lift buildings. It was awesome. And so that's what we did. But along the way, I started just sharing my coaching that I was learning with the 30 salespeople throughout the country. I was talking about being intentional with their spouse and going on dates, making sure to hang out with your kids. Are you getting to the gym? Are you doing your quiet time? Are you being intentional with your calendar at work? Are you actually blocking out time for sales calls? Are you actually blocking out time and batching time to get the things done on your job? And when we started doing all this, what I noticed was they were getting better just like I had. They were better spouses. They were better parents. And profitability was increasing. So I was just like, man, if this worked for me, and then it worked for these 30 people that report to me, then I'm going to go do this for a living. If I can go help 300, 3,000, 30,000, 3 million, I want to go do it. So it put together, my vision became to connect people to greater performance and more significant purpose. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is help people win at work and home. And then I do that through speaking and podcasts and books, but then also to connect people to greater performance. And so I do that by trying to connect people to Jesus. But those that don't believe, or it's a situation I can't talk, it's just, people just got to see that there's a bigger purpose to their life than just, crushing it from 8 to 5. So that's a little bit about me.
Man, I love it.
Yeah, hey, real quick question, because, this is something that I've been really focused and passionate about recently, is this whole idea of a coach and coaching. And a lot of the things you said seem so simple, right? Like when you say them, it seems simple. Manage your calendar, build in time for the things that are most important to you, your family, all these priority efforts. And I'm just curious, why is it so powerful to have a coach? Like, what is that switch that gets, because if you know it intuitively, what is it about a coach that turns it into a life?
Mm-hmm. In 2020, I hired another coach. I still have a coach. I mean, I'm a coach for a living, and I have a coach. I talked to my coach today at 4 o'clock. I can't wait. There's some things I'm looking forward to processing and discussing and talking about. But in 2020, I hired another coach to help me grow, scale my business, and think differently about growing it. And he said the first thing I needed to do was call all my clients and ask them why they stick around. And so I did. I called all my clients and kind of like, because some have been around for a few years. Like, why do you stick around? And almost every single one of them either said both these answers were the top two, or they said one of them. And it was outside perspective and accountability. And I was like, what? Like, what about, the faith component? And they're like, yeah, my quiet time's increased. What about like the whole win at home idea? Yeah, I think I'm spending more time with my kids. And well, what about the leadership content I've shared? Yeah, no, it's been helpful. But it all came down to outside perspective and accountability. The outside perspective piece is leadership is lonely. It is lonely to, be the boss because you can't go talk to, the employees about your insecurities or what you're concerned about or will this work because, they think you know it all. You can't necessarily talk to your peers if you're at a bigger company and you got, if you're a region manager, you got these other region managers. You can't go talk to them because it's it can be a competition. And you don't necessarily want to go talk to your boss to say, I don't know what to do here because you don't want to feel inadequate. So it's just this whole outside perspective thing. And even it happens in, families. I mean, as you're leading your family because some people just need to kind of bounce off some stuff on how their home life is and the challenges they're facing just so they know they're not alone. So that's an outside perspective. The second one's about accountability. Because even though we are all driven, we all got our list of goals, we can get distracted. And the accountability is I'll show up on my calls or that coach will show up on the calls and just be like, hey, last time we talked, you said you're going to do these 3 things. Did you do it? Well, I did 2 of them. I didn't do the other one, but yeah, I really got to get it done this week. Great. I mean, sometimes there's accountability for my clients, just seeing my name on their calendar for a meeting on Friday. It's like, oh, crud, I got to talk to him Friday. I better get to the gym this week. By the time I talk to Cory on Friday, because he's going to say, did I get to the gym? Because I told him that was important. Some guys, it's like, hey, I don't want to drink after 8 p.m. anymore. Well, maybe if they see me on their calendar, they're going to make sure they don't drink a couple nights this week after 8 p.m. so they can say they did. I mean, it's just goofy, but that's what it is. And even for me, I have a coach because I need help, like drawing ideas out. I need help because we can all get in that self-defeated feeling like, I don't know if I can grow my business or I don't know if I'm going to meet my Q3 or Q4 goals. Man, and sometimes just having that coach, it's not only just an encourager, like it's not just rah all the time, but also just will challenge you. Say, no, man, you can do it. Go think bigger, dream bigger, go after it. Because I think sometimes without coaches, we all play small.
That's powerful right there. Yeah, I think, the accountability piece, just for David and I, is huge for the two of us as business partners. But, we talk pretty much daily. We were joking ahead of time. Both of us were on vacation and we were intentionally not, wanting to talk about business and life and stuff like that. But we hadn't talked to each other in a few days. And I was like, are you cheating on me? Did you go find another best friend and business partner? Because we haven't talked in a little while, but it's true. Like just our talks on a daily basis, holding each other accountable to things that we're doing, that we see things that we're going to say, we're going to do both in life, marriage, dads, husbands, business, all that stuff. Like I get stuff done because I know David's going to ask me if I got it done.
Good.
Yeah, it's so good. And I think everybody should have some type of accountability partner, whether that's a coach, whether that's a business partner, a best friend, whatever that is. I think that's super, super powerful. And
what I think the other variable in that relationship to make sure, like for that listener, is mentors are awesome. Like having mentors is great. But what I found with mentors, because I have them in my life too, is well, sometimes they have to cancel.
Yep.
Because they have their own life. I mean, they're voluntarily investing in you. So sometimes they have to travel. Where coaches don't cancel because they may reschedule, but they don't cancel because that's how they get paid.
Yeah.
So a mentor can do that. And I know with some mentors, they're just more about kind of sharing their wisdom they have, but they aren't proactive. Like they'll sit there and answer your questions, but they're not proactive helping to drive you a particular direction. Where a coach from the beginning will be like, it's like, hey, what do you want?
Yeah.
I'll ask my clients these questions like, hey, what would a successful engagement look like in, say, 1 year? Like, what would we be celebrating if we worked together for a year? And you actually start hearing them rattle things off. Well, once they start to rattle those things off, I'm capturing those answers because now I know a direction that they want to go, whether they want to learn how to be better at delegating, they want to be better at work-life balance, they want to have more purpose in their life because they're at burnout, whatever their reasons are. And now I've kind of got this like call it true north, if you will, that I can start directing them that way. And obviously I'll be using, scripture and leadership tools and the things to help get them there. But now we've kind of got that common goal. And I think where mentors, sometimes they aren't proactively guiding you anywhere. They're just going to sit there and have coffee and respond. We can give you great wisdom. We need mentors. This is not a no mentor thing.
Yeah.
But I think for you guys, as you just talked, is just making sure, hey, we're both challenging each other and pushing each other, which is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a fun dynamic for sure. To change subjects just a little bit, I saw, I've been following on LinkedIn a lot of your posts, a lot of your content. It's amazing. Your podcast is great. Your book is awesome. And one of the things I saw you post recently was you said that, when you go to speak at events and you talk to corporations, you ask this question of what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest struggle with finding success? And you kind of ask them to raise their hand if it's like personal or business. And more often than not, I think you said that the issues are personal issues versus, some type of business issue. Could you expand on that a little bit and kind of give us some background about that question and what you've found through that?
Yeah. Thanks for the compliments on following me in the social media. I mean, it's just sometimes social media can be so exhausting because, you spend this energy and effort to put stuff out there that's true to your heart. And then like one person likes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you do something else and, a couple hundred people like it. Like, oh, that's
Right.
cool. Wonder why that worked. And, I have no
Who
idea.
knows?
I'll never know. I'm in my social media efforts. I'm trying to be more obedient just to share things. And and so for me, it's kind of about that. And obviously my heart and my prayer is that it does impact people. So at one particular talk, I was like, man, I want to open this up differently to really just see if this is true. And it's somewhat of a gamble at the time I did it because I didn't know how people would respond. I had this gut feeling that they'd respond the way I thought they would, but I was just been blown away ever since. So I just say, I've been doing this in a couple of talks to start out with. I don't know how many times I've done this, 20 times. Every single time, personal is won. And so what I do is I just say, hey, write down 3 challenges you're currently facing. Just the 3 challenges on your mind. Are you feeling fat because you haven't been in the gym? Did you get in an argument with your spouse and that's what you're thinking about right now? Are you scared that you're not going to hit your quarterly earnings? Is work culture? Are you just annoyed with work culture? Is a negative attitude, or this coworker's a pain in the butt? Like, what are the challenges you're thinking of? Don't worry about. No one's going to see this. Just write it down. I mean, you could say your boss is no good. You could say you're annoyed by a teenager in your life. Just whatever it is, write down. So they write it down, and then I say, all right, now assign either personal or professional to it. And so they do that, and I say just add it up. It's either going to be 3-0 or 2-1. That's why I pick an odd number, right? Because it can't have a tie. So it's either going to be 3 personal challenges or 3 professional challenges or 2-1. Then I say, all right, everyone in the room, raise your hand. Who has more professional challenges and versus personal? And I would say I probably should do some data on this, but 25% of the people raise their hand that they have more professional challenges than personal. Then, if obviously I flip the question, hey, so for the power of illustration, how about everyone who's got more personal challenges in their life than professional, raise your hand. And there you go. The other 75% raise their hand. In this most recent keynote I did, there was probably about 70 people in the room. One person raised their hand on professional. I'm sure they felt like a clown afterwards, but everyone else did personal. And the power in that question is 2 things. One, you're not alone. Like, you think you're showing up to work and you're the only one that has marriage challenges? You think you're the only one showing up that's got, some annoyances at home, or you feeling you're not getting the gym, or you're not hitting your quiet times, or whatever your challenges you wrote down. If you think you're the only one, no, there's other people involved. So, stop feeling you're the only one alone and get in some community. Like, start sharing this information, because lone wolves get taken out. And so you've got to know that that you're not alone. Then the second piece is now have empathy for others, because look, everyone else is showing up to that meeting. You didn't think someone brought their A game to that meeting? Well, maybe because their home life is in a funk right now. You're thinking that person was a little irritable and they snapped back at you. Well, maybe it had nothing to do with you. It's the fact that they got some challenges at home. So I've loved doing that illustration. I even just talking about it now, I can get a little fired up just kind of getting, talking about it. But the idea is if we are going to be successful at work, we've got to win at home first. And that became the whole reason for the book.
Yeah, I love that because I think, and Stu and I saw this in some masterminds that we were part of, but there's this huge focus on the business side. And really, I think the most profound, if we're honest, and that goes back to the coach part. I think it's, the accountability is huge, outside perspective, but I think honesty is also huge because you don't have any reason to not be honest with this individual, right? It's an input. And for Stu and I, we've been blessed to have a relationship that's based on honesty. So, and we don't take it easy on each other. So I think there's this other element of, hey, dude, like we need to figure this out and somewhat frank conversation to get to where we need to get. Right. And I think that honesty is huge, but this piece of it too is also huge. I think there's a lot of dishonesty and not intentional, not malicious, but we're not honest with ourselves when we assess or even assign success and what that looks like. Because at the end of the day, and you see it all the time, we see it in the military, military is a young man and women's game. It's going to end at some point. And then you have your family to contend with if they're still there, right? If you ever won at home. And I'm just curious, like, why is this not more of a focus? It seems so obvious and it's so important to all of us when we talk about what's, at least the words that come out of our mouth, what's important to us, but yet we don't treat it or address it or focus on it in a way that puts it above whatever it is that we're doing at work. And why is that?
I think a variety of different ways. I mean, it's easy to know if we're winning at work, right? There's KPIs. I mean, there's revenue goals. There's how many sales calls you're making. How much real estate are you supposed to buy this quarter? How many patients did you see? I mean, you name the industry, there's a whole bunch of KPIs to come up with. And so we know if we're doing good or not. There's not a lot of KPIs at home. I mean, I'm trying to manufacture a few of my own just to help me stay in the game. And like for us, KPI for our marriage is we want 2 date nights a month. Are we going on 2 dates, her and I, where we're just, these aren't double dates. Those have to be separate. These aren't group parties or let's go to the school fundraiser. No, these are like dates. Her and I sitting across the table, hanging out, talking. That's one for us. For my kids, I want, at least like one-on-one thing every couple weeks with them. It's going to get coffee with my daughter. It's throwing the football around with my son. Now, does that mean there's more that's going to happen? Yeah. But what I also know is if I have a busy work schedule and I'm traveling too much, at least I know, oh man, I better get that time with Caleb, or I better get that time with Camden, or Kylie's my oldest. And so the thing about having those kind of KPIs at home, it helps us somewhat to stay, kind of stay focused and making sure. Because one of the biggest things I'll find with clients and people I'm talking with is like, hey, when's the last time you went on a date with your spouse? This is like when they first start working with me. Once we start working together, they pretty much know. I'll be bringing this up, but people will be like, last time I went on a date with my spouse? Yeah, I think about 6 months ago. I think about, what's that?
2007.
Yeah. But 2007 on our honeymoon. I think that was a great date. It was amazing. I think some people are just like, I think it's about 6 months, or we had a holiday party for my company this year and we went to that. It's like, no, man, a date like you used to do. So I think that's a big thing, David, where it's easy to know if we're winning at work. It's hard to know if we're winning at home as far as a KPI. We know when we're winning at home though, emotionally. When things are clicking, I mean, we all know what it's like to pass each other in the hallway at home and not talk. Do the cold shoulder thing. Like that's losing at home. We know what that feels like. We also know what it feels like winning, where you're excited to see each other and you're having good conversations. So we get it. I think the other thing that messes people up is we put so much importance into work. Like I'm not talking about identity. I'm not talking about success, but just like I put this number together when I did a keynote a few months ago. I've had 18 bosses in my career. I've had one wife. But so often not so often. I mean, I've prioritized those other 18 bosses ahead of my wife time and time again. And some of those bosses I haven't talked to since I left them or they left me, whichever it went. But yet my one wife, my one family has stuck by me the whole time. So I think we just got to all of us put that in perspective. Be like, wow, I have been selling myself to these people I no longer do life with. So, and there's that naysayer out there listening, or just you're just the honesty. It's like, well, that sounds great and all, but I got a job to do. I got bosses. Yeah, I mean, we do. I got to pay the bills as well. But it's just, where do you prioritize that? Are you able to stop work at a certain time? Are you able to put your phone away? Are you able to shut down the laptop? Because you know that you got to cater to your family.
Well, and
yeah, I love that, man. I love that. Stu, before your question, I think two things I just want to highlight again. One is where you said KPIs, and while KPIs at home may be different, I love how you highlight you can do it, right? You can bottle up those feelings, or what winning at home means. You can analyze it. You can put some things on paper and say, okay, this is what winning looks like. What are the action items that got us here or got us out of here? And how do I intentionally do some things, and whether it's time related, whether it's a date, whatever that is. So I love how you can assign KPIs. And then the other thing that you said that resonated as well is, yeah, we have all these bosses and I have to pay the bills and I have work, but how much more effective are you at serving, at honoring those bosses and honoring that job and honoring where you're getting a paycheck to take care of family? How much more and how much better are you at that when you're winning at home? And I think that's a huge point that you made as well, is that when you don't bring that stuff to work, when you come to work and some of those other stressors or losing at home go away because you're winning, you can perform so much better at such a higher quality when you've addressed those things. So I really appreciate you highlighting that.
Well, I'm an engineer mind, just like you, Cory. So I'm gonna put KPIs at home, whether my wife likes it or not. But I've heard that
she's gonna hate it. It's not whether she likes it or not.
She's gonna hate it.
She's gonna absolutely hate that. So
it'll be an internal.
Hey, record it. Tell me how it goes.
It'll be an internal KPI. But I mean, that quote, like, what you measure is what you get. Like, if you're gonna measure something, whether it's going to the gym, or your finances, or your weight, or whatever it is, like, that's what your outcome is, what you're gonna be tracking and measuring. So yeah, I really like that. I'm gonna implement that. So something else that came to mind that you had said is this identity, and how do we identify ourselves? And David, actually, you just wrote a blog about our identity and our military IDs. We had, David and I both just retired from the Navy after 20 years, and we had this military ID card and that said we're a commander in the Navy. David was a commanding officer. I was an executive officer, and we had this like identity that we had in our job and our military status, and that all went away just recently. Like we both tried to get onto military installations with our now expired ID cards. Mine was taken from me. Like, they literally took it from me and wouldn't give it back to me at the gate when I went through it. And they said, go get your retired ID card. And David wouldn't be allowed in either. And he had to do a turnaround and come back out. But like, I felt like my identity was lost when they took my plastic little ID card that said, I was active duty commander in the Navy. And it's just so interesting. Like, when people ask you what you do, like, your immediate response is, I do this in my job, right? Like, my job is this, my occupation is this. I don't say like, a husband and a father to my two children, and a man of God, and a believer in Jesus. And so, there's no really question in that. I just think it's super interesting how we identify ourselves with who we are, and we go towards that more so than winning at home.
Well, to both of you, thanks a lot for serving. I know I said that to both of you in our one-on-one, but just to reinforce, it's just so cool. But I love that story about your military ID and it being a plastic card and taken away from you. And I think that's for all of us listening, no military or not, is we cannot take our identity to temporary things because they're going to go away.
Yeah.
Military, your time will be up when you can serve. I was a corporate guy. I thought that's who I was for life. When I was president of sales, I was terminated. Luckily, I had already gone through this identity stuff before, so I was in a good place. But if I would have been terminated from a title like that earlier in my career, I would have been a train wreck. And we can't take our identity to how much money we make, because what if things change? We can't take our identity to get in the corner office, because we may get moved from that office, or our military rank, because it will get removed at some point. We also can't take our identity to how amazing our kids are. Because what happens if they're not amazing? What happens if they get a bad grade? What happens if they get pregnant before marriage? What happens if any of these things take place in our kids' life? And we've been taking our identity to our kids. We always hear about kids' sports. Well, I mean, that's just, and the identity that parents on the sidelines are having through their kids. That's just all awful stuff. But we can't be doing that because it's going to change. My daughter is a competitive gymnast. She's going to be a freshman in high school, and just for context, they have 10 levels, and she is basically about level 8, maybe going into 9. So she's like right there, and then we're talking college stuff. Well, she took a severe injury on Friday. She fell off the high bar and hit her leg pretty bad, and so we got a couple of MRIs this week. So bad stuff. I am so grateful that we have been talking to our kids about identity early on, because she's doing good, because she knows her identity is not a gymnast. So this is just not a parent thing. This is not just all of us listening about ourselves. This is making sure that we are reinforcing the power of identity and making sure our kids understand that they are beloved sons and beloved daughters of God. Because if they take their identity to their sports, to their grades, to their popularity and their Instagram followers, whatever the same head trash that all of us are going through, they're thinking the same things. So we've got to understand our identity has got to be going to the permanence of being beloved sons and daughters of God. We've got to make sure we're reinforcing that with their kids.
Yeah, that's huge.
So
and
good.
I love that. I hate that for your daughter, but I love that, at that age where it's so easy to be defined by these things, that she's got a different identity. And like you said, you nailed it when you said, if we don't have our own, if we haven't gone through that process for ourselves, how can we model that for anybody else? How can we model that for our children? And I think that's just an amazing piece of insight, because we all want that for our kids, right? I mean, I think you ask anybody, you want that for your kids, but how can we not want that for ourselves? How can we not embody that, live it, and then model it for them to follow? So I love that. Hey, we're getting about 20 minutes. I do not want to leave this without you talking about Rise and Go. Give us some insight. What was the driver behind it? And if you don't mind, give us some tidbits on the action items, because that's what a lot of people have, these amazing ideas and things to say, and they just can't get over the hump to do it. So if you give us some insight how you did that, that'd be great.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing it up. And it's it's fun seeing your logo behind you, with the mountaintops, because that's a little bit of my book cover, in the standpoint of Rise and Go is this idea that all graphs in our life, we want them to go up and to the right. Like, we want every financial graph, hey, over time, I'm going to make more money. We want everything to go up and to the right. Well, if you ever look close at any up and to the right, it is not a straight line. There's peaks and valleys. And what ends up happening in our lives, and so on the cover of the book is basically a picture of a graph. I mean, there's mountains behind it, but there's a picture of this graph, and with an individual kind of climbing out of one of those valleys up to the next peak. And my heart behind Rise and Go is all leaders get knocked down. It could be something we've done. Maybe we've missed a few things, a few habits, and we're feeling down and out. Maybe something happened to us. We actually got fired, or maybe we got in a car wreck, or whatever the case may be. But there's just moments where we just get knocked down. And all leaders do it. It's just the difference is great leaders get back up quicker. They don't sit in the pity party for a long time. They don't kind of, just sit in their own tears. And so what could your life look like if the next time you got knocked down, you got back up quicker? And so in April 2020, I know when I just say 2020, everyone's got all their thoughts going on their own head of what happened. And that was the time I got knocked down. And that's, you asked about the why behind the book, is I went all into coaching on March 1st, 2020. We didn't really know what coronavirus was. And so I went in March 1st. We made the family decision. Hey, we're going all in. We got our own insurance, we're ready to rock and roll. And really for the past few years, I'd felt all these signs like from God, hey, go in. We went home first. My first book was having success. I had a podcast, or still do, but went home first podcast. Speaking engagements were increasing. Like all this awesome stuff was happening. So it's like, hey, we've seen the sign. Thanks God, we got it. This is cool. So that was March 1st. We went all in. Well, March 13th, which I'm not a big superstition guy, but it was a Friday. So Friday the 13th is when all travel mandates came out, and it all stopped. Every speaking engagement I had was down, canceled. And so right then, like overnight, 35% of my revenue was gone for the business, and I was scared. I was just like, oh my gosh. At the time, my oldest was, going into junior year of high school. And so it's like, what about college? How are we going to pay for that? So all these things are taking place. Well, I was also frustrated at God. Like, hey, I thought we had all these signs. Like, what did I miss? I thought we were saying go all into coaching. And so I was down and out. And I was kind of in a dark place. And I even had journal entries. I'm a big journaler when I'm reading scripture. And I even had some journal entries. And I remember the April 1st, 2021 just says, what am I supposed to do? And it's pretty aggressively circled probably about 30 times. Because I just didn't know. And over the coming months, I started to get answers to that question. It's not a silver bullet. Never is, right? But I just started, being pointed to certain scriptures that were helpful to me. I'd have a guest on my podcast that had a crazy cool story of resilience. I got something else as inspirational. And I started to kind of, accumulate this content or this ideas, and it was helping me to kind of start to rise and go, start to actually kind of climb up this ladder out of the valley to the next peak. Rise and go itself, the phrase, wasn't my idea. If I read the English Standard Version Bible, ESV, Acts 8, 9, and 10, 3 different instances, God tells somebody to rise and go, to get up and do something, different. Then, Acts 8 is all about telling Philip to go talk to a eunuch and basically share the gospel with them. Acts 9 is one of the ones that the story we're more familiar with, which is amazing. But that is when Saul, who was the biggest person against Jesus, basically has on his, the walk to Damascus. That's when he basically is blinded and he goes and sits at this fountain square. Well, in Acts 9:11, Ananias is told to rise and go talk to a man sitting at the city fountain. He's like, no way, I'm not doing this. This is a stupid idea. I mean, it's like us being told to go talk. At that time, Saul was crazy powerful. Us going to tell Putin that he's doing something crazy right now. Like, we'd be scared to go do that. Ananias was the same way. He was told to rise and go. And then Acts 10 is Peter meets with 3 of Cornelius' men. He was told to rise and go. So these 3 stories, Acts 8, 9, and 10, jumped out at me. Like, that's a cool phrase that means something, but started speaking to me. So that's how the title Rise and Go came about. And I'm accumulating this content, and it's helping me get better. Well, I'm starting to share it with my clients. And it gets battle tested the back half of 2020 and all of 2021 as I'm just sharing. It's helping, and I'm drawing out the ladder and this graph and giving them pieces of content. And it's like, all right, if this helped these folks, all right, this is a resource for other people. So I put it into a book. It just got published here in July, and it's helping individuals. So the idea, the heart behind Rise and Go, I want it to be a resource that helps people. I may never see these people. That's the thing about writing a book. It's just like, hey, I want people to use it. So it is out there, and it has 20 different chapters of kind of prompting questions, little provocative questions to help you think. And I believe that they will help you, rise and go on to the next peak.
Well, it has. It has for me, absolutely. I mean, I read it, loved it, and I love that. David and I really we love talking about leadership, and in each of your chapters has a leadership trait that you equate to a story, and that also equates to some thought-provoking questions, but then action items, like steps, like that you can take right now based on the chapter to go and do to rise and go. And I'm not gonna hit on all of it because I want everyone to go get it and read it, but two that really stood out to me, one on preparedness, about bad stuff happening, and the devil is always going to try to steal our joy. And you talked about in the book, and it was so powerful to me because this happens to me all the time, where like you have this big event, or you're traveling, or I was going on a deployment. Bad stuff always happens when I'm gone. Like I was gone on a deployment, lightning hit our house and like caused a fire and like blew out like half of our living room. I mean, stuff happens to me all the time, to our family all the time when I'm gone. And it's so interesting because what that does is it actually steals joy from whatever the event is that I'm doing. Like I'm at an event and I'm really excited about it, but then something bad happens at home, and then we're talking to my wife and she's upset, and so that steals joy from me. And so like your discussion of like the preparedness for that and understanding it and talking to your spouse about it and your family about it and how you respond to those events really can change the outcome of what comes out of it. And I loved it. And I've talked to my wife about it, and I was like, hey, remember that time we got struck by lightning when I was on deployment? That was the devil just trying to steal the joy from us. And so that one was awesome. And the other one I wanted to hit on real fast was the cycle of awesome versus the cycle of awful. Love that chapter. And it really got me thinking about what I do as a part of my morning routine and my mindset. Because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll get up in the morning, I'll start with that cycle of awful, what you talked about, looking at social media right away, looking at my emails right away. And I've gotten into this bad habit of doing that. And you're totally right. Could you just expand on the cycle of awful versus awesome real fast for our listeners before they read it?
Yeah, I sure can. And man, it's always so fun to hear how there's 20 chapters,
Yeah.
10 chapters on this idea of rise, 10 are on this idea of go, and the idea of we need to get up with courage, move forward with confidence. So that's kind of the idea, and I've tried to organize them that. But it is neat. What jumped out at you? It's just different than other people. I do want to just reinforce that spiritual warfare thing. When Holly and I, when bad things used to happen when I traveled, we used to fight about it.
Yeah.
Like against each other.
Yeah.
Like, oh, because you're gone on this guy's trip, this happened. And
right.
Not that she would necessarily say those exact words, but that maybe even what I felt. I felt that was being said through the things she was actually saying. And, or whatever the case may be, it just, bad stuff always seems to happen when we traveled. Or traveled apart. It just seemed to, and I even put this in the book. I think even when I went on like faith things, it happened even more. Like when I went to Montana for, a men's retreat or whatever it may be, it just seemed like it happened more. Now when it happens, we go into the week expecting something bad to happen. I know it sounds weird, but it's not expecting like, oh, there it is. Just like, hey, something's going to happen and I'm going to be ready for it. I'm going to be prepared for it. And then when it does happen, we are on a team. It's not me versus her. You shouldn't have gone on this trip this time. Instead, it's we're on a team. Let's resolve it. We're going to pray about it. And it's absolutely wild how it happens. I don't know if the devil can control lightning hitting the house, like in your situation, in our situation. My wife getting vertigo, like all these things. I don't know what the devil can and can't control, but what I do know is how we respond to the situation. We can control. Yeah. And so I think for any listener, just know that, man. You're in this together with your family, with your spouse, and if bad things happen when you travel, I'm starting to almost get expectant of it in my world. Second is cycle of awesome, cycle of awful. I did not originate either of these concepts. It was coached to me by another coach I had. But the first idea of cycle of awesome is just this old idea. Our thoughts lead to our feelings, lead to our actions, lead to our results. We all kind of intuitively know that, hey, if I've got good thoughts, hey, I'm gonna have a great day. Well, then we feel good. We got more confidence. Therefore, we're gonna have better actions, right? We're gonna make 10 phone calls instead of 5 phone calls. We're gonna maybe ask for the sale instead of not. And then guess what? The results will be better. Because, well, one, we made probably more phone calls. We also made more phone calls confidently. And there's this whole idea of the law of the mirror. If I'm confident on the phone, selling my program or my idea or whatever, they're going to feel it. And therefore, they're going to want a part of the action. So that's the idea. And obviously, we can play out that whole thing if we had bad feelings, right? If bad thoughts lead, no, it's going to be a crappy day. Well, then, boom, bad feelings, bad actions, bad results. Well, what was shown to me was the game changer. And that's exactly what you just talked about, Stu. Cycle of awful is actually you start with results, then you go to your thoughts, then you go to your feelings, then you go to your actions. Well, starting with results, unfortunately, is like what most of us do. We start our day looking at the results. I'm going to open up my social media and see if anything went viral. Ah, crap, it didn't go viral. Man, it never goes viral. I'm never going to be successful. This is never going to work out. Or we go to, some of us are dependent on money, and that is our power in our life. So we go to our stocks. Ah, crud, man, I lost money, or that Bitcoin is not doing what I wanted it to do, or whatever it is. So we start our day with our results. Then we may go into quiet time, or then we may do something, but already it's a downward spiral. Our thoughts are negative. Oh, man, it's just not going to work out, and now it's a downward spiral. And then in the anomaly that you wake up to a amazing inbox of, oh, I want to, do business with you, and your post went viral, and all your assets are way up. Then great. Then you may start off great. But that's just, we got to stop looking at results first thing in the morning. I mean, do quiet time. I mean, even myself, I know these things, but I can still go to my phone first.
Yep.
And I shouldn't.
Yeah. That's good, man. There's so much rich content in your book. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend everybody go and get a copy of it. For the sake of time, where is the best place that they can find out more about you, listen to your podcast, get your book, all that kind of stuff?
My website, CoryMCarlson.com, has everything. It's got podcasts, it's got blogs, weekly newsletter I send out. It's got access to both books and the resources that come with them. So yeah, my website's a great place. Both books are available on Amazon. Win at Home First is on Audible. I did the recording. Rise and Go, I've not been in the studio yet to get it done. So that one's not Audible. But everything else, Amazon and ebook and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Cory, before we go, just one thing you said, you said that you won't know your impact. You'd mentioned that, through the book, how many people you impact. I just want to highlight in the book, it's very unique about the book as well. There's tied to the chapters, there's QR codes that will take you to podcast episodes, which I thought was ingenious, and it was an amazing thing. But what made me think about was all these resources that you've created for people to get better, to rise and go, to win at home, to just be better human beings, to achieve their highest and best. And you will not know it until you get to heaven. I guarantee you that. There's going to be so many people that you touch, that you influence. There are people that you'll never hear thank you from until you are basking in the glory in heaven. And that's when the reality of all the impact that you make will truly be realized. So I just want to encourage you to continue to keep crushing it, putting out amazing content, putting out amazing podcasts, books, your posts. It's all so positive, but it's rich in intentionality, and it's rich in the things that we should prioritize. So thank you for everything that you do, Cory.
Oh man, well, thank you. I can always use encouragement. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you both having me on your podcast. I've enjoyed all the conversations, and I look forward to more.
Absolutely, Cory. So guys and gals, hey, go check out CoryMCarlson.com. We'll put show notes. We'll put the links in the show notes to his book, to his website, to his podcast. Hey, share this episode. If this was impactful for you, screen share it, send it to people, tell people about Filling the Storehouse podcast, tell people about Cory and his books and his podcast, Win at Home First, all amazing stuff. Most important, go fill the storehouse.
Yeah, thanks again, Cory. Make it a great day, friends. See ya.
Thanks for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and share it with someone you love. And if you really felt inspired, leave a 5-star review so we could continue to grow and help other Christian entrepreneurs fill their storehouse. If you're interested in creating financial freedom through real estate investing, be sure to check out our website at storehouse310turnkey.com. We'd love to serve you through our platform of building the kingdom. Just click on the contact link and we'll reply to you as soon as we can. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go fill your storehouse and make it a great day.